Hello everybody. It's your old friends and there's a Russell. Welcome back to the Best of All Worlds podcast. We are here on the 21st episode of this series, Jerry. The one we're doing just before Christmas, just to keep you Trekkies happy during this holiday period. And you'd be excited to know this is the start of our brand new arc that we haven't said absolutely anything about because we hadn't discussed it before the end of the last episode. But now we have. We've settled on what we want to do, Jerry. And I have to say, I'm very, very excited about this because I think for the next 10 episodes, it's nothing but bangers. Um, the top spot is getting threatened over the next 10 episodes, I think, in one way or another.
I don't know about that now. I don't know about
Now,
that now.
I don't think number one is in
There,
danger, but I
there,
think there's
there.
only a few contenders.
Well, in terms of number one,
Mm,
I genuinely, we had this conversation last week, and I said, no, nothing is going to threaten number one in this whole list. But then when I've actually thought about it, there is a couple.
yeah, there's a few
There is a
sleepers there.
couple. Like
There are a few, yeah.
there is a particular double episode as well, and I'm
Mm,
like, oh,
indeed. So if you want to know how the next, shall we say, couple of weeks, indeed months of this series is going to go, wait until the end of the episode and we'll tell you exactly what to expect on this one. But first, let me tell you what the next arc is going to be. So again, we've done a few things where we've kind of done a bit of a sampling menu of certain shows and so forth. So instead of kind of going through the kind of the routine and going, okay, let's now do D69, let's now do Voyager and so forth, we're gonna completely rejig the whole thing and we're going to be doing a character arc. So we're going to be doing episodes that focus on one particular character from a show, whether he's main character, whether they're main character or side character and so forth, and basically see how the show goes from there. So to give an example of a character episode, we're going to go for one from Star Trek Enterprise, which obviously is the prelude, the precursor to all the other shows that came before it, even though it was written well afterwards. This becomes a key thing when we're talking about the episodes. So the one we're talking about today focuses on the good Doctor Phlox, our Smiley Denobian, played by John Billingsley, who, not gonna lie, was perhaps one of the better characters from the season. Would that be a fair assessment?
I would think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you've got a couple of good. I think overall you've got really good actors, but in terms of
Mm,
characters, some of them just weren't that likable. Archer, he's always going to be like, oh yeah, like Archer.
yeah.
I think Trip is another one as well. But especially out of anybody, even Archer, I think Phlox is a more lovable character because there's just something about him.
Mm,
He's different, and this episode kind of fills in some of the blanks as well because we don't really know. Just when it came to Enterprise,
mm,
Enterprise had a clean slate. Was do what you want, really.
yeah.
You can introduce whoever the hell you want into this because we've never seen them before,
It's a
and
prequel. It's 100 years before
e-
Kirk and
e-
Spock and so
e-
forth. So yeah, you got
exactly.
buffer time there.
So you've got the likes of the Denobulans, which in the original series, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, Voyager, never heard of them.
Yeah,
They're
we don't know
never
what happens to
mentioned,
them.
never mentioned, and they have become a prominent kind of role in this show because of Flux.
Mm,
And you learn about their society and about their habits and stuff like that. Like they are well, I'm not going to spoil it. You're going to hear it in the episode, but he talks about marriage and stuff like that, and I'm like, you
mm.
lucky bastard. You know? But
You
yeah.
wonder why he keeps smiling so much. That's
Oh,
why.
it's not just a smile. It's like Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson Joker rolled into one
Oh
big
God, yeah.
like that.
I
And
was
it's
thinking, I was
fantastic.
thinking, I was thinking more of that in Cheshire Cat just had it for this
Oh
spice of this.
yeah, Cheshire Cat, absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, he's fantastic. But he is
Mm,
he is one of the more likable characters in it. He's one of the better characters in it.
mm.
From many different because this isn't the only Flock central episode. There are other ones, and those are absolutely fantastic.
Mm.
There's just something about this character, and even John Billingsley himself, he's very, very good playing Phlox. I've
He
seen him
is.
in other things, and even though he's good in other things, I've seen he did like a little cameo in Stargate. I think he did a cameo in
Just a lot of X Files he was in as well, I think, wasn't
that's
he?
the one. He was in X Files as
Yeah.
well, and I think he did Prison Break as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he's been in a couple of things. To be fair, like he's
So
had quite
yeah,
the quite a career. Like,
He did a few things, but nothing has been better than Phlox. Phlox was just fantastic.
mm,
I would have loved to see them because they got cut short. They should have had more than 4 seasons. Even the 5 seasons would have done them, but the four just wasn't enough. I would have absolutely loved to see a film or something, even tying them in with
yeah.
a bit of Kirk or a bit of Picard or whatever. The fact that we didn't get it, I was like, no, that's you're doing them dirty there. They definitely deserved more than that.
I totally agree with you on that.
Unfortunately, they didn't get it.
Yeah, and it is quite a shame in that sense because I think for where you see the show going as well, like it's very clearly had a idea for season five, and especially when you look at that last season, like I remember doing a rewatch of the series a couple of years ago during lockdown, and I thought to myself, "Fuck me, this show was so much better than I remember." But I think it's because it was at the end, it was at the tail end of that kind of like that long streak of Star Trek shows because like we had rattled just we went straight from the Next Generation to Enterprise, which is what about a 25-year stint, which is quite a lot. Like it was about 25, wasn't it? Because Star Trek, J.J. Abrams started was 2009. So it would have been about 20 years. So 20 years of non-stop Star Trek in one shape or form.
Yeah,
And then suddenly you did need a bit of a reset because it had lost pace with the likes of, say, Battlestar Galactica is a very famous example. I think that show in particular killed off Enterprise because, well, killed off is the wrong word to use there, but it did the space opera way too well that it made Enterprise look a little bit pedestrian. Whereas Enterprise was obviously it's you're comparing apples and oranges, but when you're the
yeah,
actual audience, you're not doing it that way. You're going, I'm watching this over this because of
yeah.
the time zone and all that. But even look at season four in particular, like it's a little bit toothless in places, is a little bit like a lot of kind of canon tidying up and so forth like that. But they're good episodes in their own right. They're good stories and they lead into each other quite well.
Yeah.
Um, but I think people just were just a bit jaded with Star Trek at that time, and
And
it's very unfair on the show because it is good by its own right, you know.
it was like it's kind of like how people are looking at Star Wars now. It's
Yeah.
like how people are looking at the MCU now is that they've had so much of it over the
Mm,
last few years. It's like we need a break here, lads. You just need to give us a break.
yeah.
And unfortunately for because of that, we didn't get to see the fantastic ideas that they had for season five. Like season five was going to be the actual founding of the Federation. Season
And the Rock
five
War as
and
well. Yeah.
we're going to have the Romulan War. You were probably going to have a bit more to do with Klingons and the tensions
Mm,
between them. But the Romulan War was going to happen, which we have never seen in Star Trek and probably never will now. We were going to get the new upgrade, which, you know,
which would have brought it closer to the
it would have
Starship we
brought
know quite
exactly.
well. Yeah.
We were finally going to get the actual secondary hull is
Mm,
what we were going to get. And the only way we've actually been able to see that is that the concept art was actually taken for Star Trek Online and they put it in it. Because
yeah.
that Star Trek Online were like, yeah, we'll take it. Absolutely. And when you look at it, you think, oh, what we could have had. Like Enterprise, I think is a lovely ship, but then when you actually see it with the secondary hull, it
Yeah.
brings us so much closer to the original series era. And
It's
the
like when
upgrade is
it's when you realize like because I think we had this point already about how like the ship was kind of like how Cochrane saw the Enterprise E back in the movie. It was kind of really flat and almost like two-dimensional almost.
yeah.
And then just when you see the bottom half of the ship, it felt like, oh fuck, that's what you know you actually see like it's like a little light bulb moment where like you finally see how the ship has come across, you know, kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean with that.
I know.
But yes, so we will continue to gush about Enterprise as this episode goes on, but we're gonna get stuck in with this one and go for a deep dive on the good Denobian Doctor. I'm not sure if he says "damn it, Jim" at any point or "damn it, Jonathan" in this any point in this show, but I highly doubt it because he seems too nice for that sort of thing. Um, but we shall see. But Jerry, are you queued up on your side? Are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Indeed. So, for everyone watching at home, as ever, this is the best of all worlds. This is one half watch along, one half review. So, if you want to watch the episode alongside with us on the streaming platform of your choice, you can press play when we do, and we'll give you a live commentary of it. Or you can skip about 45 minutes from now and get our review of the episodes, whichever suits you best. But if you want to go for the full thing, let's get started on this. On three, two, one, play or engage, whatever suits you best.
You play? What do you mean play? It's engage.
I know. Jesus, it's force of habit. They didn't say engage in back in the 22nd century. They said like something like hit it or punch it, chew you, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I think part of the reason that I like Phlox so much
Mm,
is that he's not like the other male members of the crew. They all have, their workout in the gym, they've got abs, this and that and the other. Whereas he has a very, very prominent pot belly.
yeah.
And it's kind of like well, it's not as big as my own,
He
but
eats
yeah, it's
well is the best way of
yes.
putting it. Another thing I like about him is that he's a natural. He's a very natural doctor. Like
Yeah.
he's all these things. He's a botanist. He's a horticulturalist, etymologist. Like he's
Veterinarian,
so veterinarian as well. Yeah, of course.
psychologist.
Yeah, like he's so well qualified. It's actually quite ridiculous. And you can clearly see he's kind of brought in solely because he's just like that damn good at what he does. He just knows everything. He is like an encyclopedia of everything. Um, So yeah, like before we get stuck into the episode itself, like this is a format. It's just like, that's nice. It's a it's a format that was done a little bit towards the end of the next generation phase, and they do it every now and then, basically as a sort of filler when they're in between arcs. But if you compare this episode really with anything, it's definitely a Data's Day type of episode
Yeah.
where it is quite literally that. It is like it's set the narration, Data's telling Bruce Maddox about his day. And what the beautiful thing about that episode in particular, we will cover it at some stage, but it just didn't make the cut this time around, is that the story is happening in the background. It's
Yeah.
all literally from the lens of what Data is seeing. And again, that can play into his naivety at the time, whatever. But the whole overarching story is behind him, it's around him, and it only comes prevalent right at the end. And it's so well done. It's fantastic writing. Particularly because it's the first time they ever really kind of did something like that. They were a bit cheeky with how they did the plot in that episode. This one is a slight twist with where the Doctor is very central to the premise here.
Yeah.
Because not only is this a Data's Day similar type of episode, but it's the first ever Prime Directive episode, which is a very common trope in the original series. So even in the first series of this show, they're trying to do premises similar to the original series, but their way, and
Yeah.
go from there. And I really appreciate that because it's consistent with how we see the canon as well. Well, I do have 5 wives, Oshi.
It's only 3.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the other 2. If you know what I mean.
Brisbane, Australia. It was like this little window into distant places with strange sounding names.
You know, everyone in Australia is called Bruce. I do as well love how clean this sick bay looks as well.
Yes.
So certain sick bays look like an absolute mess, especially with this guy who like has bats and worms and all sorts of stuff in there. It is remarkably clean.
Yeah.
Taking pride in that. I love it. It's like, yeah, we fuck.
It might help to bear in mind that please don't venture inside the mama's book. The uninitiated.
Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, it's all right. He's only an extra. He'll survive. At least you forget, of course, he hadn't invented red shirts by this time, so everyone lives in the Enterprise. Everyone.
And you'll be pleased to hear that
Isn't it nice to know that in the 21st century they still have, or 22nd century they still have Vaseline? There you go. And let's not ask why Jerry has that right on his desk.
It's from my lips.
Okay.
Which set I'll let you figure out.
All we need to realize now is that there's on another like NX01 NX ship. There's an Irish doctor that just has nothing but pseudocreme. Here, put that on you and fuck off.
Pseudocreme and 7-Up. Plenty of fluids. Now fuck off.
The replicator going, sorry, we could not find a 7-Up. Can I just say, by the way, I'm adding a +1 to this episode automatically for the dog. Just so you know.
I'll remember.
Yeah. I'm adding it on my score here, so it's fine. Like, when did that ever go out of fashion? Bringing your dog onto a spaceship? Like,
I just don't know. Like, why didn't everybody have them?
it should be like, even if Gene Roddenberry was properly like paying tribute to like the ship's mascot, then every ship would have had an animal of some kind.
Yeah.
I really like this.
I suppose, yeah. I suppose, though, every ship has had some form of pet.
Yeah.
You know, they had the Tribbles.
They did.
In the original series.
Not by design.
they had the Data's cat, Spot, and the
yeah.
fish in the Next Generation.
That's true, yeah.
You've got Morn and Deep Space Nine.
He is the ship's pet.
And then, of course, you've got Harry Kim.
Harry Kim, I would like to call him the ensign's cat. Janeway's MacGuffin. Sorry, this is when I hear an accent from home, I just really get teary. It's so hard to find stereotypes in the 22nd century.
I've always wondered, though, right? Because any type of show like this and set in the future, they always play movies from the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah.
Can you not just give me like a bit of Friday the 13th or Back to the Future or something?
You
know, buy the goddamn rights to it. Just put it on it.
It's kind of what annoys me a little bit of New Trek is that they are very on the nose with shit like that. If they do get the rights to something, they'll just like say, "Look at what we found." It's like, yeah. We know you're kind of lost your subtlety around the J.J. Abrams 2009 year, you know. But
yeah.
But I think someone made the point that like whenever there is a main show like this, there is always a token the 20th or 21st century expert. Like like who was for Tom Paris is the obvious one where he's like a 21st century historian, which therefore like makes him more relatable to us. And I think someone made the point where like the only like future like novella or like media you hear of is I think it was like a Cardassian novelist who predicted a human Klingon war. And I think Garrick gives it to Bashir in like the second series, and the next season it actually happens, like stuff like that. Like, and that's cool. That's really cool. But they I suppose they might see it as like a kind of wasted bit of world building, I guess.
Since we were on the subject of meeting, I think Cruden Cutler may be romantically interested in me. I can't be certain, however. Pheromones of human females not as potent as Denobians.
Probably slap in the face to do. If only Doctor Phlox is around for that episode up the long ladder where it's just the Irish just going around fighting and writing. One very underrated part of Enterprise as well is that these are all brand new sets and they look great.
I love the smaller bridge as well. It's more compact. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's got that kind of that submarine vibe again, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You're on the starship.
Hmm.
There you go. It calibrated.
This is a war vessel. Yes. You're up for access over on 3 other ships. Why? You must have more expedition. 12 million of us died before the battle. You only imagine how many have died since. The doctors spent on the cure. The more advanced people. People with more technology. Like you.
I can just imagine
He is
T'Pol
the
in there.
most resting as a resting is of resting bitch faces.
Yeah,
The Ferengi.
never heard of them.
That's the very first iteration of the Ferengi, though, in Star Trek in terms of
Yes,
the timeline.
it is. Yeah, there's a bit of a canon breaking episode in the fourth season, but it kind of gets away with it because the crew don't see them. We see them, but the crew don't. And it's just like, oh, you're being a little bit sneaky there, lads, with that one. But it was purely
Which
just
one
an
was that?
excuse. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it was literally just an excuse to get Jeffrey Combs and Armin Zimmerman and so forth to just dress up as Frankie one more time. It's purely just down to like a bit of a fan servicey stuff. Like,
Do they speak?
I think so. Yeah, I'll have to track down the episode. It's a later Enterprise episode.
It's not the one where they take over the Enterprise, is it?
I think so. Yeah, that's it.
That's this series.
Is it this series?
Yeah, it's this season, and it's
Oh,
not.
fucking
It's Jeffrey Combs, yes, but it's not Armin Zimmerman. It's the
Isn't
guy
it?
who plays Neelix.
Oh, Ethan Phillips. Oh, that's what it was. Yes, it was three lads who'd never played Frankies before. That's it. Yes, I remember now. Right, so we've got our hook here.
I said before that my duty can entail the occasional emergency. Emergencies at sea come in all shapes and sizes. I was once nearly overwhelmed by 50 patients in a refugee camp, Metalis. Captain Arthur is now asking me to take responsibility for over 50 million.
One good thing about having Hoshi being the linguist of the show is that it just gives you an excuse to throw alien languages into the show.
Yeah.
Something going on.
Ixnay on the cutlery. One before the other, Hoshi.
make physical contact. Aim to know your doctor.
Cute washboard. Like, what the fuck?
Oh, I love it. That was a nice scene. I like that.
Yeah.
Because again, it's still early in the season. It's showing that like the crew are starting to kind of meld together a little bit.
The captain has committed all our resources to helping people who didn't exist 2 days ago. Again, I'm struck by your species' desire to help others. Seems the more aggressively we treat people, the more resistant. 1 out of 3. It's a full-blown epidemic. These are in the most advanced stage. Treating them with a synthetic antibody. At first, what precedes mutates. Once it moves into the respiratory system, there's no way of controlling it.
Doesn't ring a bell at all.
Captain, treatment with Prioxate should ease the symptoms in the sickest patients, at least temporarily.
Where are your face masks, people?
You're not 2 meters apart.
Is that grabbing you? Sorry, say that again. We should assign some crewmen to watch out for.
I don't think these people like to see that.
Your experience with lesser civilizations is limited, Captain. You might be surprised what its mutation our technology can be.
After all, in the alternate universe, you stole our shit. Fair point. Fair point.
Doesn't speak the same language to you?
No. They're not as evolved as Colombia. Very hard work. Indigenous to this planet. Sense of strain. On most of the planets we've encountered, only one species of humanoid survived the evolutionary process. You two are not from the same planet?
We may look at some.
Those things you pursue, but the date on the bank as well. I had meant to transmit this letter by now, but the Blockian epidemic has been taking up most of my time. Working with the physicians here has been quite good.
Someone put that iron, take that iron off that man.
No wonder he's in the hospital.
Yeah, no wonder. Scalding the fucking chest off him.
I've decided to enlist crewman Cutler's help with my task.
What would a night like?
Have a chance to see for yourself. Exobiologist.
Here, take these jars of urine and stop looking at me.
Bloody junkies.
That's impossible.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
I can't foresee it with a track for you.
You're not dentist to the list of things he does as well. To Paul, have you been eating crisps again? No. Yes. He's just so obliging. I love him.
Yeah. In fairness, she's got a big yellow mouth.
Considering Vulcans often don't use it.
Sure is.
You asked me. In my experience, you reflect emotional maturity.
Oh, let's put a pin on that to Paul for later, shall we?
Yeah, screw you, DePaul.
Yeah.
You and your giant lips.
She does have quite large lips.
Sub-Commander Paul has a very pragmatic and important person. I admire her. Although she lacks the instinctiveness that her emotional response can provide. Somehow I found this unsettling.
Have you met a Vulcan before, Phlox? It's kind of their thing.
Thanks, oil, insight.
Be careful.
Speaking as a person who mates only once every 7 years or they die, you want to be careful about those, urges you have.
That was the weekend. Just got a call from the director. He's eager to hear the and developed a dedication.
Hmm.
Connecticut is on this level very difficult to avoid. But what they also know, the belief they make in unity could be the key to cure. And to study that in more detail. Take all the time you need.
This is where the episodes finally start showing its hand, where
Yeah.
Archer and Phlox both have a moral dilemma here. Whereas, like, you can see, and you can also see the two different point of views developing here, where Phlox kind of has that kind of realism of a doctor, where like he knows this isn't quite going to work. Whereas Archer's still kind of like bullishly optimistic.
Just
As
keep
humans
going.
tend to
Keep doing it. Keep going.
Keep trying, keep doing. Yeah, exactly.
Physiology. At the moment, I find myself in the enviable position of studying two humanoids on the same planet. It's a rare and exciting opportunity. Well, then we'd like to run some tests, take samples of their blood. It will be famous.
Oba.
Ah, they're Italian.
Probably would be.
As fascinating as the two species are from a biological standpoint, it's their ability to coexist that intrigues me most. Developments are highly evolved, technical.
It is even scientifically, it is a curious presence, considering that, like, if we're based off even off our own kind of evolutionary stage, this kind of should be impossible, unless there was basically an island where no one ever visited for about 3,000 years, even longer, actually. Come to think of it. And you're just so obliging. It's like, here, take my arm.
That's not what you're doing.
Doctor go, woo! Hmm.
He was like, fuck off. Phlox is literally eating a leaf.
Yeah. I know. Like, to be fair, Flock seems to eat anything and everything, so he's down for it.
Yeah.
Blockings give them whatever they need, food, clothing, medicine. It says the blockings are people.
Yes, sweet, delicious leaf.
Despite the main's insistence that they're treated well, I human crewmates seem to need it.
Of course they did, the busybody little Karens.
It's like, oh, you high and mighty, hoity-toity fucking humans. Why can't you just accept it there? Then not everyone has to have the same upbringing as you do.
Yeah, we're a bastard.
During a couple of seasons, you're going to be racist again.
Who will?
The humans.
What do they do in a few seasons? I can't remember.
When the Zindi attack and Phlox goes back to Earth. And
Oh, dirty racist bastards.
they start getting racist on him.
Poor Phlox, all he wants to have is a Chinese and they won't let him have it.
Bastards. I know, bastards. They even close down the Chinese and everything.
He loves his Chinese food, that Phlox.
In fairness. Can you say no to a chicken chow mein?
A chicken chow mein, yes, I would say no to it, but a pork fried rice.
Oh, now stop it now. Stop it. It's only Monday, Jerry, for fuck's sake.
Every day is curry day, my friend.
I mean, I would disagree with you, but I had curry for lunch, so.
Here they develop a symbiotic relationship that's
They force them out of their country. They didn't know if they're pets.
actually it's their way. Married. Married.
There's two ex-wives.
I have 3 current wives, and they each have 2 husbands. Not them, counting myself.
Let me just say, Christmas is complicated.
Yeah. So you've got 3 wives, and then each of those wives has another 4 husbands.
Yes.
12.
And then kids on top of that as well.
Yeah. That's 15 people.
Could you imagine that
It's
Thanksgiving
just the
table?
parents, like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Not only that now, but imagine Thanksgiving table with in-laws.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine having like one mother-in-law is hard enough as it is. Imagine even with 4, 5, 6, 7.
No thanks.
I just saw the look of like fear in your eyes when I said that.
It's just
Dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, just let her along. Let him along, didn't you, Cutler? And then pockets. I was making the artist to kind of like just look at this little the PVC going. You thought this could like stop a fucking virus? I mean, you could have tried. Just saying. Hmm. And thus that cursed human empathy kicks in for Mr. Archer as he muggles with a moral dilemma.
Hmm.
This is one of the, as I recall in the first season, it's one of the rare times where humans kind of come up against interact with races that are inferior to them, because
Yeah.
the kind of usually it's been like with Klingons and Vulcans who have the quite a bit of a head start on them, and even in other races like the Andorians and so forth. Now
Yeah.
they're in the kind of the kind of technological advantage, and they kind of don't know what to do with it. It's interesting. Just gonna softball in there, Archer. Yeah.
Safe to say I know where you stand on the subject.
Even if you give them our reactors, they don't have the technical expertise to build a warp engine.
They have no experience working with anti-matter. I doubt they even realize the dangers of this.
Your decision should be
Good. Stay and help.
the Vulcans stayed to help Earth 20 years ago. We're still there.
I never thought I'd say this, but I'm beginning to understand how the Vulcans must have felt.
That is quite a bit of important progression on Archer's
Yeah.
front there, by the way. If you
And
know
the
your
fact that happened in the first season.
Yeah, exactly. There's only so much that he can bat the I don't like Vulcans type of drum, especially in the pilot where that was the starting off point.
The look on his face.
Mm. One very good thing I would say about Enterprise is that they brought back the music suite that they had for the Next Generation and some of Voyager, where some episodes essentially have like a soundtrack onto themselves, which is fantastic work.
the the music the music for this show came from like the last 2 or 3 seasons of Enterprise, majority of Voyager, and then you go into this
Yeah,
then.
and whatever like unique tracks they put in for like the what was 2 episodes that had fantastic music. Shockwave was the two-parter where they had the terrorist attack and everyone's got blamed for, and the Expanse that had a
Yeah.
completely different music vibe whatsoever, completely.
Even if I put my one, with the interfering with evolutionary process that has been going on for thousands of years. But it's pretty new interfering, as the doctors do. We're forgetting about the link. I've been studying their genome, and I've seen evidence of increasing intelligence, motor skills, linguistic abilities. Unlike Velocians, they appear to be in the process of evolutionary awakening. It may take millennia, but the mink have the potential to become the dominant species on this planet. And that won't happen as long as the Velocians are around. If the mink aren't flourish, an opportunity to survive on the moon. What do you suggest? Choose one species over the other. All I'm saying is that nature. The hell with nature. You're a doctor. You have a moral obligation to help people who are suffering. I'm also a scientist, and I'm obligated to consider the larger issues. 35,000 years ago, your species coexisted with other humanoids. Isn't that correct? What if an alien race had interfered and given the Neanderthals an evolutionary advantage?
And we'd be fucked right now.
Yeah, you would be. Although I would like to see Neanderthals try and host their own podcast. That would be fantastic. Oh wait, they do already. Actually, sorry, it's called the Ben Shapiro Show. Sorry. Hmm. Hmm.
Days ago, so I had no idea. There's a great deal of trust in me.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Oh, Captain My Archer.
To be understood.
Expecting a human to see bigger picture. What century do you think this is, Doctor Phlox?
Someday, something that tells us what we can and what we do not shouldn't do. Until somebody tells me that they've drafted that.
Directive, you say?
I have to say that particular line was corny as fuck.
It really fucking was, wasn't it? It's the fact that he was clearly told in direction, just say the word directive. Hmm. Hint, fucking hint.
This give you detailed instructions on how to synthesize movements. We appreciate everything.
Don't look at you, miserable Karen fuck.
Just knows to use the same flyby 3 times.
And it's beautiful every time.
It is very pretty, in fairness. It's just like, have you been orbiting around the same part of the planet the entire week? Yes. What else do you want me to do? Even the fucking doctor are having a philosophical debate all week. It's a very, very small thing, but it just ties it back to the original series where they're using discs.
Yeah.
Just a very small thing, but I love it.
That first name.
Yes.
Oh, if you never watch this show, Doctor never leaves sickbay. Unless he gets a hollow emitter midway through the 3rd season.
Or you like Crusher, who's never in the fucking sick bay. She's off riding ghosts.
Riding ghosts, dancing, jazzercising, whatever else she's around doing.
Yeah.
That too. Hello, Crewman Cutler. Would you like me to lead me down the garden path again? I've got nothing else to do for the rest of my day.
Now, surely he has like an off-duty nurse or assistant or something.
I don't think at this stage he does. Like he
So
kind of.
like he's fucking off now to not to go to bed because he doesn't sleep.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like you say to yourself, what the hell is going on? Like the sick bay is now closed. So if somebody falls down and breaks their bollocks, what happens?
Fucking Trip has to come in and hope for the best. It's like, I know, looks like a broken neck. My ankle's broken. No, definitely broken neck. Definitely broken neck.
Right, let me just put it back into place. Oh, that's definitely a broken neck.
Oh no, I made it worse. I'm actually, oh god, there's blood everywhere. I know. I'm sure they find another Phlox, or there's like a nighttime Phlox that comes in just for the day for the graveyard shift, and that's it. Like,
well, that's what I'm thinking. There is like there has to be some sort of nighttime Phlox.
has to be.
No, but you know, it is Star Trek, so
it's just one of those continuity errors you just have to learn to live with. Jerry, isn't that it? So, but yeah, so that's Dear Doctor in the bag. How did you like that episode, Jerry? Because I think it was quite a very chill episode. Come to think of it, it wasn't exactly a pulse pounding episode in that sense.
No, it wasn't one of those like action packed Way of the Warrior types episodes, but it was one that you really got to know and to understand Phlox a hell of a lot better than we've ever known him, because he was just this doctor who literally was in the right place at the right time. You know, nobody looked at his credentials. Nobody looked at does he actually have? Oh, it's a certificate from Samoa. You know, so
yeah,
it's a thing like, okay, does he actually have qualifications? What's going on here? And then you're like, oh wow, he's probably the most qualified doctor in all of Star Trek, apart from the one who can download knowledge into himself.
Which is cheating, let's be honest. Like that's a bit cheating, really.
Oh, absolutely cheating, but he is literally the most qualified doctor in all of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where it's a fantastic insight into who he is. Obviously, he doesn't fully understand humans.
Mm-hmm.
He's learning, just as Hoshi is learning to speak to Nub through him. So it's a thing. It's a very interesting episode. You get to see a different side to Phlox. You get to see a bit more of his backstory. You find out he has 3 wives. Each of those 3
Yes.
wives has 6 husbands, which include him. So it's a thing where it's like, right, so you've got fucking not 6 husbands, 3 husbands each.
Yes.
Or what? I can't remember, but there's loads of them anyway.
He has 3 wives, and 2 of them have other husbands.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's a bit of a messy family in that sense. I'd love to see the family tree. I don't know, that would be quite something. Yeah, like it is a nice episode in that sense. It's one of those important episodes that every first season of Star Trek kind of needs to build stuff up. Like I know I was saying that one time. Like if you're to get stuck into a Star Trek episode, you kind of have to go for the correspondence course of the first season to get an idea of a lot of characters. Like DS9 is like that for a long time. It doesn't really kick into action pack episodes until maybe the 3rd season, where nearly every second episode some big shit is going down. But because of a bedrock of important world building that's set in the first 2 seasons, and certain shows kind of forget to do that almost. Again, a lot of we say ad nauseum for the some of the new Trek, but let's forget the Next Generation forgot to do that as well. When you look at the first season, was like darts at a board and hope for the best. Half of the first season you could disregard because it's all shite and very problematic episodes in hindsight. It's only really with DS9 where they actually remember what they're trying to do and set the basis of here's episodes detailing all these characters in the world, so they can start building on it. That's how a good Star Trek is built. It's why I give something like, say, Strange New Worlds props, because they do a rake load of character building in those first 10 episodes. They don't have the time and the luxury of time that a lot of the old shows had. They have to squeeze that shit into an hour episode, and they do it exceptionally well, I think. It just makes it a better product overall. So that's an example of learning. If you have a long-term vision of the show, it's important to lay the groundwork now. Like Enterprise did, to their credit. Unfortunately, they just didn't. They got a bit unlucky and only got 4 seasons when they should have probably got more, to be honest. But that's neither here nor there. So in regards then to our scoring, we're going to get to that very, very shortly. But we will have a little dip into our trip among the stars, guest stars even. We don't have any new ships to do because we've already done the NX-01, which sits comfortably in our captain tier. So we're going to talk about our guest stars we've seen in this show. So the first name, there's no big names to speak of in this one, Jerry, so I'm going to rattle through them fairly quickly. There's a few repeat offenders, but some more obscure ones, so I won't quiz you on them in particular. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is Alex Neville, who is one of the Menk in this episode. He's basically the Menk that starts speaking English back to them in the when they're taking the scans. He's kind of the more, I suppose he's the Menk that seems to interact with the crew the most in the show. So he plays that there. He also does appear in the 2009 Star Trek movie. He's one of the shuttle officers, just basically as a supporting role in the show. So he appears in both iterations, if you will, of Star Trek. In regards to any other stuff he does, funny enough, actually, the reason he got the gig in 2009 Star Trek is because he went to high school and junior high school with J.J. Abrams. Fun fact.
Oh, okay,
so,
that's interesting.
So he essentially was helped given the gig with that. You may recognize his face from various other shows like Crossing Jordan and Boston Legal. He's in one of those a few of those episodes as well, and he is, I suppose, one of his more prominent roles, shocking enough, is that he is the voice of Earl Bowen in the Clifford's Really Big Movie, which obviously, Jerry, you love that movie. That's why I mentioned it to you.
Yeah, listen, it's one of my favorites. I have a copy.
It is. That's why I thought I'd say it to you. He's in Cheers, and he's also in Lois and Clark. So you'll see him in a couple of, again, a lot of cameo roles really for that sort of thing. But he's still going. Yeah, like I said, the Enterprise isn't that old, so shouldn't really be surprised in that sense. But yeah, Alex Neville was the Menk that we saw speaking to the show, to the crew of the Enterprise. On the opposite side, then the Vicarians, if you like, was Isak, was the fellow that was talking to Archer at the end there. He's played by David Kimball, who again is still going at the age of 71. And again, this is his only role in Star Trek, but you may have known him starting off with Hill Street Blues, who have a great load of Trek alumni to begin with. You'll also see him in Third Rock from the Sun, Jag, The West
what a
Wing.
show.
He's in The West Wing as well. Babylon 5. And he was also in Boston Legal as well. So again, you can kind of see the Rolodex is different for each iteration of Star Trek. Like if it's not Gunsmoke in the original series, it's fucking Boston Legal or or the West Wing in other cases. And he also again very much appears in Alias, which is one of J.J. Abrams' back catalogue as well. Movies wise, he's in supporting roles in Clean and Sober and The Firm, and also in the TV movie Sinatra. So very much parting roles in that sense as well. And in this case, he plays the Valakian Isak. So next up then is Christopher Rydell, who is the alien astronaut that we saw. So he's another Valakian who basically we first interact with in the show. And unfortunately, he doesn't have a name in the script. He's just known as the astronaut. He doesn't get an outright name, which is a bit of a surprise. So Rydell himself, age 59 at the moment, has a couple of roles to his name, obviously. I suppose the most prevalent one I can see here would perhaps be Last Goodbye in 2004. And he's guest starred in Cagney and Lacey, Family Ties, and The Hitchhiker. But here's a real fun fact for you, Jerry. And as we know in Star Trek, it's a real small world when it comes to actors. Rydell is the son of Mark Rydell, the director, and the original series guest actress Joanne Linville, who you will remember as the Romulan from the episode The Enterprise Incident. The one that tries to woo Mr. Spock. So Rydell
Mr. Spock is unwooable.
Well, that is very, very true. But that is a fair point. Yeah. many iterations of Spock have tried to be wooed, and they have all failed. But yeah, so he is the son of Joanne Linville. Fun fact. So ain't that a small world for you? And he only makes the one appearance in Star Trek as the unnamed Valakian astronaut. Next up then is another one of the Menk, which is this one is, I believe he's called Amaron. This one, is he? No, he's called Lar. Apologies. So Lar is the name of the Menk who appears here. He is played by Carl Wiedergott, I believe the pronunciation is. So he's actually made 2 appearances in Star Trek.
Okay.
I actually gave it away somewhat with name dropping him there. He is the character Amaron in the Voyager episode Warlord, which is in the 3rd episode. So he is the Alari, the younger son of the Autarch. This is the episode where Kess is possessed by one of the Alari and kills the Autarch, and he's the younger brother basically of that family. So he comes back then to play the Menk, who we see another one of the Menk interacting with the crew here. So he's a double role in that sense. In regards to some of his other roles, remarkably enough, he's known for The Simpsons. He does a lot of his work there, co-working, voice work rather, and he also lends his voice to The Simpsons Hit and Run and The Simpsons movie. So you'll know him from a lot of his work there. You will recognize him more from the voice. To be fair. In terms of his other movies and films, you probably know him from perhaps The Golden Girls. He's appeared in there, Roswell and ER and 21 Jump Street, to mention just a few. But for movies, the only one I can really see here that might ring a bell is perhaps Pirates of Silicon Valley. But again, very much kind of minor roles in that sense. He's actually German, funny enough, Karl Wiedergott, which probably explains the surname. But yeah, so you probably know him from The Simpsons mostly. So, last but not least, then is Crewman Cutler, who was not quite Phlox's love interest, as it turns out. That one was dead on arrival.
His really good friend.
Is really good friend, and that's exactly the way they stay. So yes, she is played by Kelly Wimmer perhaps, and she has actually made two appearances in Star Trek. Obviously, Cutler is one, but she also appeared in Voyager. She guest starred as Lena from the 6th season episode of Muse. So Lena would have been the character that had the kind of the how do we start this? So she would have had kind of like a waddle on her face, kind of the waddle and the kind of the kind of mud clay mask there was there as well. So where to describe this? So yes, it was the plays written by Kalis about the USS Voyager, and she portrayed both Belanitars and 7 and 9. She was an actress essentially, and she played both roles. So if you remember, she played had B'Elanna as one mask and 7 and 9 as the other, and basically played the role between them. And essentially, that was her role in that sense. So she was the actress in that. In regards to the actress herself, Kelly, she unfortunately is I'm just reading here. Bear with. Okay, so she actually has died unfortunately in 2003 at the age of 36. I was double checking there. She died from an undiagnosed arrhythmia at her home in LA. And there was kind of like incorrect information about whether she was buried or cremated and so forth. So that's why I was actually double checking there to see whether they misreporting that. But no, she is unfortunately she died back in 2003. Unfortunately, so actually not very recently before this episode was aired. Actually, come to think of it, which is quite surprising in that sense. She has made appearances in other shows, namely in Seinfeld and The X-Files, and also in CSI and NYPD Blue and Judging Amy. So that was again a lot of the kind of serialized shows you'll see her in. You will know her mostly from 6 Feet Under, the HBO series where she played Melissa. And she also was in the series Wolf Lake, if you watched that as well. And her final television credit was in an episode of Everwood, which was aired 2 months after her death and was obviously dedicated to her memory. In terms of her film work, she started in 1998 with Playing by Heart, and then she also played a role in Buddy Boy, which was more of a psychological thriller. Her last movie would have been Something More and The Vest, both released in 2003. So yeah, she very much a lot of her work was almost like posthumous in that sense, because I think she did 3 or 4 different shows in 2003, and would have happened after she died, which is quite macabre in that sense. But yeah, at least from a Star Trek sense, she plays Cutler in this role, and perhaps that explains why the Cutler character is not seen since. Because I thought that was a bit of an unusual thing to throw in just for one episode. Of course, circumstances outside of the show's control in that sense, unfortunately. So right, so that's all of our guest stars locked in, and now we get into the scoring for the show, Jerry. So as ever, we start off with the plot and rattle through all the categories you're now seeing appear on screen. So let's get stuck in then. How did you find the plot to Dear Doctor?
Well, when you described before we start watching it, when you described it as day to day, I'm like, that's the perfect description of what this episode is actually about. It's being narrated by Phlox telling his friend about his day to day, and then something serious that happens and how he deals with it. I thought the plot was absolutely fantastic. It gives you an insight into the mind of Phlox that we didn't know. And not a lot of, I think not a lot of characters in Star Trek actually get that.
Yeah,
you don't get you do get a little hints here and there of their backstory and the insight into who they actually are, whereas this just, you didn't really know anything about Phlox beforehand, and then boom, you're like getting all this information. You're like, Right, okay, he's loads of wives, and all the wives have multiple husbands, and they have loads of kids between all of them. His ethics are worth more to him than absolutely anything, because obviously he's a doctor.
Yeah.
Many times over, he's a doctor in many different ways. He obviously, we've had. You look at all the doctors that we've had. So, would it be right in saying they've all been human? They're all
Yes.
human.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're all human doctors, and we finally get a doctor that's not human, whose values are different, whose ideals are different. He's looking at the as I called them, the two Karens given out in the episode. You look at Cutler and Hoshi, and how they believe that the mink are being mistreated. Whereas he believes is like, no, this is something this is their culture, this is who they are. They're very well taken care of. They're not slaves. It's a thing where they believe that they're being mistreated and they're being exploited. But if Phlox is like, no, I don't see it that way. This is, what would happen if they were on their own? Right now, if they were on their own, they'd probably die because they haven't a fucking clue. So he gets to, we get to see a different side. It's not just human values. You see, but then you see he has the highest of ethics, and he has to go up against Archer. It's not like going up just against anybody. It's against the captain. It's against the man who is ultimately going to have to make the decision.
Yeah.
And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought the plot was great. I'm going to go 8 to a 9.
Well, at least let's meet in the middle. I was going to say 8 myself. So shall we go to an 8 to 8.5?
Let's go with it 8.5.
8.5 it is. So 8.5 to start us off on this episode. So in regards then to the setting, so again, we're talking about various different aspects of setting here, because obviously we've seen a few of these sets already on the show, so we're not going to get delve into that in particular. But we mentioned already that how Enterprise very much kind of put effort into making everything feel a bit different and look different. So obviously the Enterprise is one thing. And now in the previous episode we had seen already, we hadn't seen much of the sick bay. So this is a perfect example to see how that comes across. And when you kind of compare the rest of the ship, where everything's very confined and squashed and very much like a submarine in that sense, the sick bay is huge. And clearly that's an intended purpose as well, because perhaps even from a design point of view, you have to give a wider space for a sick bay like that, because in space travel, you're going to get a lot of fucking casualties, and you need to give the doctors, or in this case Doctor, a lot of space. And one thing I do love about that is that even though Phlox essentially has animals, we see in previous episodes that might have like bats and fucking birds flying around the place is kept obscenely clean. And while it's not adequately described that there would be like self-cleaning surfaces or droids or anything that does all the tidying up, it's kind of inferred he does it himself. And Phlox is kind of a self confessed workaholic in that sense. And that really comes across with how spotless that sick bay is. In regards to some of the other sets, like obviously the Valakian areas and the Menk areas, they come across how's the best described? Remember the episode in the Next Generation Symbiosis, where you had, this is the one where it was the really ham-fisted drug metaphor. We had one planet who was like manufacturing a drug, and then the other one were fixers, were fixed on it essentially, and they had this kind of weird relationship where one was boosting the economy of the other. So that episode did a very good job of, say, comparing the two, whereas like they were wearing, say, similar jumpsuits, but one was pristine white and clean and perfect, and then the other ones were wearing like kind of grabby green and kind of grayish type of off color almost, and they obviously would look dirtier than compared to the clean ones. So that was an example there. They tried to do something similar with this, where the Menk obviously kind of like looked like they were kind of living in kind of shacks almost, but not necessarily like prehistoric or anything like that. It was just, this is the way they build, but there's still a level of intelligence there. It's not shabby or anything like that. And you have the Valakians, who you'd think would be more advanced, but then they're very drab, and it's almost like they're quite limited. So I think the visual language is quite good there, in that it was trying to come across, okay, maybe this is also, it's a throwaway episode, maybe they only had certain things to do here, but if they're trying to get over the point where the Menk had a bit more potential than the Valakians, I could accept that. If someone was explaining it to me, I could see that. But again, this is me perhaps reading too much into it and giving the show too much credit. So I'm not too sure. At least I think there's still a conscious effort thrown into that to try and make sense of it. So I'm willing to give it maybe a 7 to that, 7.5. What would you say to that, Jerry? Is anything you want to try?
I can't really add anything more to that, really. To be honest with you, obviously we got to see some new areas. The contrast between the Menk and the Valakians. Obviously, the Valakians appear to be more highly advanced. Like you look at the aerial shot of the city, you've got monorails, you've got skyscrapers and stuff like that, whereas the Menk have nothing like that. But it's like that. It's like obviously the years of dealing with this genetic disease has taken its toll on society and for the Valakians. And the Menk are just like happy-go-lucky. Let's go have a party. Let's set some fires. It's all good, man. So it's a lovely visual. Star Trek is all about its visuals, especially with stuff like this, and they do it so well. I'd go. We didn't really get anything new on Enterprise, apart from looking at the cinema, like going to see the film. That was the only really new thing that we saw. But I think even again, that's just the mess hall transformed into a cinema.
Yeah.
So it wasn't anything, wasn't anything special. So we'd have to just go by the merits of the Valakians and the Menk. I'd go with a 7. I'd go with 7.
Yep, 7 it is then. So next up then is the writing of the episode. So considering the type of episode that we're getting here, I think the writing has to be quite ironclad and quite watertight. Particularly because you are, in a kind of canon sense, you're doing the first ever Prime Directive episode. So you have to kind of write it from that point of view. I will take points off for certain things, but I'd like to see how did you feel that this episode presented itself? As in, like, would you believe that this is the first time they had this quandary?
Yes, I would have, simply because of how it's laid out. Now, the silliness of that line of one day, someone's going to come up with that directive. I'm like, oh, fuck off. Just,
I'm glad that we both thought that as well.
It's ridiculous, like he was only short of saying Prime Directive. He was only short
a directive, some sort of.
And it's not bad acting. It's just that's how the director wanted it said. Clearly, that's how he wanted it said. That was so silly. It was so silly. So that's instantly knocking marks off for me, because they didn't need to put that in there. They didn't. Yeah. He could have said, the fact that he said at the start, they're going to come up with some sort of set of rules that we will have to abide by. And I'm like, just leave it there. And that would have been your point. Absolutely. Everybody who would have known Star Trek before that would have known exactly what that meant. And it would have been absolutely fine. But they decided to put that in. So instantly marks are getting taken down. I don't know. It's actually quite a difficult one to score. Oh dear. Like you asked me the question there, would apart from that line, would we have looked at that and gone, is this the very first time that I've had to deal with something like this? Absolutely. Very, very believable. Very believable, the fact that all Archer wants to do is get in there and help. And you look at previous episodes when they've come across societies that are pre-warp. All he wants to do is fucking interfere. I just wants to get down there and get his hands dirty. I'm like, fucking just give it over.
Yeah, like in his head, he's still Flash Gordon. Like he's exactly.
He just wants to be the hero, or just wants to be the adventurer. And so, it's not even so much the hero; it's the adventurer in him. He wants to go down and experience it. And in a couple of episodes, or in the next season, we see how badly it can go wrong. When a away team goes down, they come back and think, yes, that was a great old time. Oh shit. Where's my communicator? And they go down and they get captured, and it's almost a massive incident because of what they've done. So they have to be more careful about these things. Obviously, the Valakians, they know about warp, they know about other races and other societies, but they're just not technologically advanced enough to be able to use them. So it is very believable, from an Archer point of view. because let's be honest, you don't really see much of the other characters in this. It's
Mm.
more. It's obviously it's a Phlox episode, but we have to include the Archer because ultimately all the decisions are based
The book
around
stopped
him.
with him, exactly. Yeah.
So it's very believable that he wants to go in gung ho and just wants to save them, no matter the cost.
Mm.
But when he's actually given the facts and given the reasons behind them and exactly why we shouldn't be tampering with other societies, it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
And that's why one day someone will come up with a set of rules to govern what we can and cannot do. That's the exact line. That's what should have been said. But because he put in some sort of directive, he's only getting a 6 from me.
Okay. Can I stretch you to a 6.5 because I was going to give this writing a 7.
I'll go to 6.5.
6.5. Very well. So then we go to acting, and I'll be honest, Jerry, I found this as a very quiet episode for acting because, in one aspect, like I think obviously this was down to Phlox mostly, and I don't think it was like I don't think a lot of people were given a chance to really flex their acting skills here. I think a lot of people were very straight and very narrow, to the point where I feel like they weren't really given a chance to emote. And like you would have thought the Valakians would have been a little bit more kind of like, you know, urgent about their upcoming fate. Now I don't know how much. Now that being said, we don't know how much they were told, in a sense, where like Phlox knows the whole story and that there's a genetic disease and there's ultimately no hope for them until he developed a cure. He has a cure, you know. So I don't think he necessarily acted a moral quandary quite well. But then again, I don't think that much was shown. He was just proven to say, "I have a cure," and then the rational like mind is taken over here. So in that sense, I think he handles it relatively well.
Yeah,
but I feel like the show was this episode was missing a remarkable percentage of emotion, and I don't know if that hinders the episode or not, or is it presented as a more rational argument. I think that's what the show was trying to do. It was trying to boil it down to a rational argument and take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
But then again, it's almost like the show was written from Paul's point of view as opposed to Phlox's. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying because it's not a very emotional episode where in reality it should be an emotional
It would
episode.
be, wouldn't it?
It should be emotionally charged. The only sign, see, this is the thing. You look at any episodes before this, because this is midway through for season 1, and we haven't really seen proper emotional, angry Archer yet. You see a little bit of him when he's dealing with Klingons and when he was dealing with not the Romulans, the Vulcans and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you do start to see a glimpse of the man that Archer will become in seasons to come, because basically he feels he's right. Doesn't matter what Phlox says, he's right. He's the captain, and what he says goes. And you can start to see, even though it's not a very emotionally charged scene, it's a thing where this is probably where the acting chops came out in this episode more than anywhere else. It wasn't a very, you know, it wasn't one of those episodes you go, God, that was fantastic acting. They are fantastic actors, and the one scene I think is when Archer is sitting down having his iced tea, and Phlox comes in for a bite to eat, and then they start talking. It's like, listen, you know, I don't think we should do this. You're like, what? To damn with ethics, we need to save these people, and it's the only time where they get even slightly emotional. And I think Phlox is actually more emotional than Archer is. Archer is normally a very emotional person. You will see that throughout season 1 and season 2, but then after that, season 3 and 4, it just balloons out to something that no other captain in all of Star Trek, apart from crybag Michael fucking Burnham, is. And that is purely emotional. And it's not until he goes on that rock climbing trip with the other captain of the NX-02 that he finally starts to deal with it. Because it came down to he was just the Zindi attacked and he was angry, and he got angrier and angrier, and the Prime Directive be damned, there was no Prime Directive. He didn't give a shit. He would have done anything. He basically stole warp coils from Damar.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Damar, but you know what I mean. He stole.
I do, yeah.
He did what he had to do to save mankind. Will he be blamed on that? No, of course not. But you see the darker side of Archer, and it's only until that rock climb where he's having nightmares, he's seeing Zindi everywhere, and he finally deals with it. We realize that it's PTSD essentially is what it is. That's what he's dealing with, and he finally does deal with it. So you start to see the other side of Archer, even ever so slightly. You have to look between the lines, really, but you do start to see it, because again, it's like all guns blazing. We have to do whatever we have to do. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. It's like, do what you have to do. Just have to save these people, rather than thinking about the bigger picture. Is like that, like exactly what Phlox said. If it was humans and Neanderthals and an alien race had come down and chosen them over us, we wouldn't be here now. Earth certainly wouldn't be the way it is now. It would be a very, very different place. So it's like that. Nature has to run its course. It's you know what, you have to go by that lovely saying from not from Star Trek, from Jurassic Park. Life will find a way.
Indeed, it will.
That's it. So I'm not, I kind of had the sense that you were going to score this low. Now, I'm not talking about low, but I had the sense you were going to go low. I think that one scene, kind of that one the acting chops came out there, especially with Phlox. He can be quite emotional. We'll see in other episodes. His acting chops really comes out. In other episodes, but I think I will go with a 6 to a 7 on this one.
I will agree with John 7.
Okay,
'Cause like I said, I feel like I think this episode, I think if it was more of Dire Straits, obviously it would have been more of an emotional punch. But I think it's because they were coming from a position where they were on the high ground. They were the intellectuals looking down and going, "What shall we do with it? What should we do with these Valakians? What should we do with these Menk?" And it comes from that position instead of kind of like being in the trenches with them, kind of way. So the acting, as you said, the energy is a little bit different in that sense. And that also kind of ties into my argument for the action of this episode as well, because as you mentioned, for episodes like this, it's very hard to judge an action because a lot of it is talking to camera, it's dialogue, it's something like that. And in certain episodes, we've done this type of episode. We've kind of presented the action as a dynamic kind of back and forth. Is there an intense dialogue? Is there a debate? Is there a discussion? And when you look at some episodes like that, then you do see there's a bit of action, because really what you're looking at is, does the episode flow well? Does it need an action scene to break up things a little bit, or can it get away with what it has? And to a certain extent, yes, because it's a quiet start and a quiet end, in that sense. But the middle, which is the core of the episode, is the philosophical quandary that Phlox and Archer are in, and they're both in two opposite camps. Where, as you said, Archer is looking from a human aspect, where they were kept back by Vulcans for 90 years and saying, "Let us fucking out, let us go into space." Whereas Vulcans, being on the high ground, will say, "No, you're not ready." And then suddenly it's the humans' turn now to have that philosophical quandary. And Phlox coming from the Noblins, who don't necessarily have that issue. They have their own kind of they already have warp drive, they already have all these things at this point, so they're not in that same boat. So you can see where the 2 point of views are coming across. You can see how they're clashing, and that conflict makes really well. I think they needed a bit more conflict in that sense, especially I know a lot of it was about Phlox and the stuff with Cutler and so forth, and obviously circumstances mean that they didn't really run its course. But the episode, I think, had to kind of commit a little bit more to an actual conflict, an outright argument between Phlox and Archer. I think it would have been better. But at least from that aspect, I'm willing to give this at least a 5 or a 6, just on that, on how that broke up the episode enough, if that makes sense. No. But it is one of the episodes. It's very hard to mark something like action, because there is nothing. There is no fighting. There's no scuffles.
There is no action. It's not that type of episode. Obviously, we have had episodes where there's been little to no action in them. So you can't give a 10 out of 10 for something like this, because there is nothing. You get the slightest bit of tension between Captain Archer and Phlox, and that's about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
and it is only slight, but you do start to see the other side of both characters in it. And as I said, and you will in future episodes, you will see that come to the forefront about who exactly they are. And I think there's one episode where they have like an injured alien comes on board, and Phlox wants to treat them, but they're a race that were at war with the Denobulans, and they hate each
Yes,
other.
that's right. That's a great episode.
And
Another good
you
Phlox
do
episode.
you do start to see, Phlox does get angry at some point, but then he starts to he has to think about his own life and about his son that he doesn't talk to, and it's a thing where the emotions are all over the place in that one. But again, it's not one of those action-packed episodes, and it's like this. It's not action-packed, but I wouldn't be willing to go as like, I'm not going to give it a 1 or a 2, or even a 3 or a 4. I like that. What did you say? 5 to 6 was it?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I mean,
Yeah, I do the same. I go 5 to a 6. I say meet in the middle, go 5.5.
five and a half.
There's not so much action in it, but it's that little bit of tension you get with Archer and Phlox, and I think that's all you've got really. And even actually, I'm going to put another point in there, is the tension between Archer, who is very somber and I know I can help these people, and the doctor in the Valakian hospital, like, so you're not going to help us, so you're not going to give us your warp drive, and you're just giving us some medicine. Great, thanks. And it was real. You could clearly see it was very condescending. It's like, yeah, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's dealing with the emotions of that as well. So it's one of many kind of quandaries they come across. But again, that's the intrigue with the show, is that like canonically they're the first to do it, and naturally they're going to get some of this stuff wrong. Yeah, for folks, Tucker picks up an STI in space, and that was quite frankly hilarious. So did Harry Kim, and
no, that wasn't an STI. You got pregnant.
You got pregnant. That's what it was. Yes, it was Harry Kim that got the STI. Yeah,
you're hardly calling the child a disease now, are you?
Oh God, no! I'm not one of those types, Jerry. Come on, don't be silly. I wasn't born in the Baptist belt. So next up then is the effects. So. Again, quiet department in this one. I am taking points off the fact that you use the same flyby each time, which I'm very much a case of like, it is pretty, I know, but like it's the same side of the planet for fuck's sake,
Yeah, but let's be honest with you, 90% of the Next Generation use the exact same fucking clip over and over and over and over again.
100%.
Like I couldn't tell you, I actually don't know how many times they use the same shot of an Excelsior class right beside the Enterprise. It travels along for a scene, travels along the second scene, and in the third scene, it turns off and bye. And I couldn't tell you how many episodes. Like how many
fucking Excelsiors? They can only turn right.
I know, but how many fucking admirals had an Excelsior class? If it came to me and I had to pick of the fleet, I'm like, oh, the fucking Excelsior class, give me something better than that. Come on, I'm going to see the Enterprise. I'm not going up a shabby Excelsior class. Come on, give me something else. It's so ridiculous. So yeah, you can't take too much because it's a lovely shot, but of course we do have to mark it, and there was nothing. There was nothing special about this episode in terms of how it looked.
This is what happens, especially when you have a hot start to the season, where you have a lot of new sets and a lot of high effort put into certain episodes for world building and so forth. You do get quiet episodes like this. For every episode, let's say, like we watched the Endorian incident, which was fantastically done, and scored very highly as a result. You'll get an episode like this that is the kind of the yang to that, where they need to keep a few pennies in the bag for another big episode coming along, but they'll bring it back by giving you something more cerebral, and they have done it in this episode. In fairness, they have given us a more cerebral point. So with the effects, it's lose points in this, but it's also going to gain points elsewhere. I find it very hard to score on this one as well, so I'm probably going to go 5 to 6 again, like probably 5 to be honest, because it's slim pickings really. There's no bad effects in here whatsoever, and that's something. Everything's competent, but there's nothing unique, there's nothing spectacular to this episode. Everything else is kind of standards.
Yeah, I would go. I'd probably just go a 5 if I'm honest. I'd just go a 5 on it.
Yeah, I think I'm going with 5 as well. Next up then is the score, and what I thought it was a bit of a quiet start to the episode. When I actually get stuck into when the plot reveals itself like midway through the episode, where it actually gets into the moral quandaries where the music starts off, and I actually quite like that because it is a kind of thing where sometimes the actual lack of a score brings you into an episode, whereas a case where like nothing's happening just yet, and then suddenly shit kicks off. And this is not necessarily shit kicks off type of episode, but this is a shit gets complicated episode, and the music reflects that. Where it's a lot of it's kind of suiting the scene, it's tense, there's conflict, and there's nothing exploding, and that's what the music is doing very well here. It's not overwriting the scene, it's not outwashing the scene or anything like that. So I think it's a good episode for that kind of music, and for that kind of score, if you will, because as I said, it's suiting the tone that they're going for. It's not action packed, it's not bombastic. It doesn't need to be, because that's not this episode. It's different. So in regards to a score, though, this is what I'm having trouble with. So I'd say maybe a 7 to an 8. But what would you say to that, Jerry? Like, again, consistency wise, it's correct, but it's not memorable.
Absolutely, it's not memorable, but consistency wise, it is correct. But the thing is, unless you're really, really, really listening to it, you wouldn't have noticed. But it's the fact that a lot of the scenes, the outros, so a scene ends, you're like, and it goes to the next scene. It's just copy and paste from Voyager.
Yes.
Unfortunately. I said maybe they could have, I know that at the time, money was probably tight with regards to budgets and stuff like that, but come on, lads. I know that this was the first Star Trek series that had completely moved on from physical props in terms of ships, and it was purely animated or graphics. So I know the budget for that was a lot higher than in previous shows on previous seasons. But come on, lads. You don't have to keep rehashing the same music over and over and over again. Did it hit the right parts? Yes. Was it perfect? No. So what did you go? 7 to an 8? Was it?
I'm switching. I'm more swayed to 7 at the minute. So
I'm gonna go with a 7 as well. So this was a really good episode. It really, really was. But we're getting to the stage now where even though we're getting really good episodes, we can't mark them very high.
Yeah, that's the trouble. You need to blow us away in certain departments, and we're not getting that.
There's a few episodes that are coming that are going to blow the absolute socks off us. Absolutely. And I am going to have to do everything in my power to sabotage the shit out of them.
Very true.
Very, very true. A 2, because like if I go at 2 and you go at 10, I'm like, well, we'll just have to meet in the middle, won't we?
We'll have to go with 6. That's it. Yeah, that's how numbers work. So next up then is scene, and I find this one of the positives of this episode actually, because I think there are some quite good scenes here. They're not ones that, again, not memorable scenes, but important to the episode and important to the character. Because I quite like the scene where Hoshi and Phlox getting to know each other, speaking to Nobly. That's a good scene. That's nice for the characters, and it's nice for Hoshi because she's getting settled into space. Because again, she's had her own episodes in the season where she doesn't have her space legs essentially, and she's getting kind of like accosted by fucking weird aliens to go, "Oh, live with me, learn languages, ignore the wandering hands," And Phlox is having his episode as well. So they're both kind of coming from two different mindsets here, which is nice. Then you have the stuff with Phlox and Cutler that obviously doesn't really go anywhere in the end. But then again, the memorable scenes are him and Archer, and then Archer having to confront the Valakians, going, "Sorry, they were basically fucking off without actually fixing anything, but we're gonna go," and essentially leave it at that. Like, they're very important scenes to sign off the episode, and I think it signs off quite well. And then the narration of like the end of the diary essentially doesn't now say it's welcome either. So I think it ends the episode ends quite well with a resolution that's not good or bad. It is just a resolution. It's a stalemate, for want of a better word. So I'm going to give it a point for that in that sense. So I'm thinking 8 for a scene, because again, for the episode itself is fine, but nothing iconic and nothing important. So,
well, for me, I thought this was probably one of the strongest categories in this particular episode, because there was a couple of scenes that were really good. You've got obviously the main scene. I think the main one, and I think we can agree on this, is the Archer and Phlox dilemma scene.
Yes.
what way are we going to do this? Are we going to give them the cure? Are we not going to give them the cure? Are we going to let them do it themselves or whatnot? There's a couple of good scenes as well. Is that Cutler, when he finally kind of not confronts her, but kind of says,
That's correct.
what's going on here? Like, what is this between us? And it's like, well, you didn't tell me you were married, and I don't want to be another marriage. I don't want to be another wife, another notch in your bedpost.
Yeah.
So let's be friends. And he was like, what do you mean by friends? So that was a nice little scene. I thought it kind of, it's showing you that they may try and work something out, obviously
Yeah.
it doesn't happen. Then you've got, I think, another good scene where it's Archer going down to see the pilot. And it's like, we need your warp drive. And you can see the dilemma on his face. And he even talks to Paul after, and you're like, what do I do? And she was like, you know what I'm going to tell you. You know you can't, but you're still gonna fucking try, aren't you? You stupid dozy looking Archer bollocks. It's because it's exactly what he was gonna do. He was gonna try 100%, 100,000,000%, and only for Phlox telling him that I can't cure them and you can't give them warp drive. He didn't say it like that, but it amounts to the same thing. If he had made Phlox give the cure, then he would have been more likely to, sure, you don't have warp drive, I'll give you that as well.
Yeah.
So it's good scenes in this, and it's probably one of the strongest categories in this episode, and I'm gonna go for an 8.
And an 8 it is. So next up then is character, and again, much to your point about the strongest scene, I actually think the character is the strongest scene here, and in fairness, it needs to be for an episode like this. Like, this is an episode where you're outright trying to stretch it, to flesh out a character here. So again, we're doing a character arc for the next couple of episodes, and this is the category I want to kind of hone in for a little bit, because as you said, this one is mostly about Dr. Phlox, and but at the same time, while it's doing that, almost from the structure, the A and B story are both Phlox. But it's the two sides of Phlox, almost. It's Phlox trying to acclimatize to being with humans and trying to go, like, essentially it's not as, like, egalitarian, is it the word? I can't recall. That is not the word. But essentially it's living very kind of like carefree, and essentially, being a polygamist on a ship where, that is not kind of a thing. Let's be honest, unless you're a Mormon.
As I said, lucky bastard.
So he's trying to acclimatize to that, where obviously like friends with benefits is very common in Denobula, which is, again, fair enough, nothing wrong with that. But for certain humans, it is a bit of a sticking point. It can be an issue. So even when he was asked the kind of question, when you mean friends, do you mean friends or do you mean friends? Like, friends. It's like, okay, fair enough. And it moves on from there. So that's even small, like, stuff like that. It just even gets across that he's trying to acclimatize, even though the humans are as well. So he's in the similar boat as them. And then obviously even the stuff about his race, we don't hear that much of outside of, say, the pilot, where they're trying to obviously say, here is Phlox, he is from Denobula. Denobula, I'd never heard of that. Tell me about Denobula for 5 minutes. And there we go. So we get from there as well, and a couple of episodes basically expand on this in further seasons. Like you mentioned, the combative race that they basically enslaved, and he's trying to confront the fact that they were the enslaving race, and he was taught essentially why they're doing that, and so forth. And it had a colonial mindset, and him kind of confronting that colonial mindset after all the stuff he's seen in space already. So that's kind of almost like a sequel, if you like, to this first Phlox episode. So from that aspect, I think they did enough to make the character interesting, even though he was interesting to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I think most characters get an episode to themselves in the first season. Like, I remember Hoshi and Mayweather getting their own episodes that kind of present themselves quite well. I don't remember one for Malcolm as much, because he was very much like the war for the crew, whereas, like, I want to shoot things. No, you won't. Sit the fuck down, you crazy Brit. Just sit down. And that's essentially his role. But he gets his limelight in different ways. He doesn't necessarily need the character development until later, And obviously DePaul is in that kind of camp as well, where she'll have arcs to go with her kind of progression, and same with Trip. Trip is the garmless idiot that gets himself into trouble, and that's his role too. So for Phlox, I think this episode does a decent job of it. I can really only give myself an 8 of it though, because I think he was already likable to begin with, and this was necessarily just a confirmation of that rather than do you know what? Here's a good example: a Reg Barkley episode, right? He is fresh at the box, brand new character, and immediately going, I fucking love this guy, or you fucking hate this guy. That is where you present a good character point, because for something like that, you're presenting it, and he's brand new out of the box. Whereas with Phlox, you're adding to something that you already liked. So that's why I'm going to give it to an 8 for now on that one. What do you think, Jerry, on that one?
I'll go with you on that for an 8. Obviously he does get a bit more developed in this episode, as it were. Yeah. I thought as a character, it is a character developing episode. It was quite good. You do see the insights into him. You know, you start off this episode, and how the episode starts off, it's him going into sick bay. Sure, I'm back. Let's have a look, and I'll feed this one, and I'll feed that one, and then he eats a bug himself, and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, what's going on here? And it's a thing where like, okay, well, clearly this episode's about the Doctor. That's what it's about, and it leads into that, and he's getting the his pen pal is sending him voice messages, you know, and he's sending voice messages back, and it's just it's a nice little it's a nice little kind of starter for Phlox, because we hadn't a clue about him before. We had no idea who he was or what he does, and this was insight into a little bit more about him, a little bit more about the Denobulans. You know, the you know, the argument is people give out about, oh well, like they just made up the Denobulans and they were never in the original series or any other series, and they made up the Xindi and they're never in these other series. I'm like, okay, you do realize that the Federation is Federation, by the time Next Generation comes around, is not made up of 3 or 4 races like the start of the Federation. It's actually made up by thousands. Yeah. The Federation is thousands and thousands of light years across. To get from one side to the other is going to take you probably a couple of decades. That's how big the Federation is. It's fucking huge, and you're never going to hear about all the races in it. You're just not. Awesome. You know, it's a thing, and it pisses me off when they talk about that. It's like the Xindi, you know, in one of the future episodes, it's like they say that the Xindi are actually part of the Federation. That's actually great. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. We don't have to have heard about them in the Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, because again, they're one of those thousands of fucking races. Story. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's the thing is like we heard about a new race that we've never heard about before. I love the fact we're doing that. As I say, it was insights in more into him, and that's what this category is. It's about him. Yeah. So what did you go? 8, was it?
I went with 8. Yeah.
I'll go with 8 as well, because it was this had to be a strong category because it was a character developing episode, and it developed the character quite well.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then the last category we have then is the consequences. Outside of one mark that I'll take off, which is obviously the stuff with Cutler, just ends up not really developing, because obviously what happens with the actress, and I can understand that. Yep. But the biggest thing about this, Jerry, is in the end, this does lead to the Prime Directive. This is the precedence. This is where you could argue this and various other things that happen on Archer's initial mission is where they develop a need for a Prime Directive, this non-interference idea. And again, a lot of it is a Vulcan premise initially with what he did with the humans and so forth, and it all comes around full circle for Archer having to implement it himself. But this is essentially, as we see it, the first time I've actually needed something like a Prime Directive, where you do need something in writing to say we need to save us from ourselves and being the saviors of the galaxy, because in the end we're not playing God. That's not what we're trying to do here. You know, we need to play the same role. So how do we quantify that then? Like it obviously has a huge ramification in the world of Star Trek, not necessarily for Enterprise itself. So but we have always dealt with consequences in the wider world. So in theory, this should be a high score for the episode then, shouldn't it?
Yeah, well, I think there's more to this episode than what you think. We always look at the consequences. So, what were the consequences of Q-Who? You know, we found we were introduced to the best villains in all of Star Trek. We would then lead to Q-Who leads to Best of Both Worlds leads to all of Deep Space Nine. You know, so huge ramifications from that. Obviously, this has huge ramifications in the future because they come up with the Prime Directive directly from this episode and the subsequent other episodes where they have, you know, Archer goes gung ho and goes, shit, we have to leaving it. We've left technology behind on a pre-industrial planet. We need to go back and get it. You know, so that's one side of it. So that's obviously the main theme of it, is that this is what that effectively they're going to have to come up with this directive. There's another side to it as well, and it is Phlox, is consequences for Phlox in the future. Because obviously we see his wife, but then it's that episode that I was talking about, and it is effectively this episode that we've watched. There is a second part to it.
Yeah.
And it is when he is sending another message to his friend, Dr. Lucas. And that's when that alien comes on board, that he then has to look at himself and his entire race and go, you know, is this the right thing, that we need to move on? And then it's about his son then, about talking to his son for the first time, because his son didn't believe in the values that he had. And again, it goes to those values that he has in this episode. So obviously, you know, 90% of this is about obviously the ethics of it and the non-interference and staying the fuck away from people who just aren't ready yet. And that's where the Prime Directive comes from. But there are consequences from this, is that he talks about his ethics. He talks about how you know, right and wrong, but from what point of view? Everyone has a different point of view on what's right and wrong. And then we see what happens in that future episode where he meets I can't remember the alien, but it's the aliens that obviously were at war with his race. And obviously they won. It kind of mirrors the episode where Neelix and it mirrors that, because Phlox's the Denobulans had won whatever this war was.
Yeah, I have it actually here. So you had the Denobulans and you had the Antarans.
The Antarans. So the Antarans were beaten by the Denobulans.
Yeah, I think the episode is called The Breach. I think it is.
Yeah, there you go. So it's something along the lines: the Denobulans have beaten the Antarans, whereas not Tuvok, Jesus, Neelix, his race had been conquered by this other race. So it kind of mirrors that, you know. So that's where I say the consequences are. He talks about his ethics. He talks about right and wrong, but then we see that his race aren't, you know, rosy as we think they are in the future episode. And I think that's part of the consequences there. So in terms of marking this, obviously Prime Directive, very, very important. I couldn't go to a 10, but I'd certainly go to an 8.
Yeah, I was gonna go for a 9. Would I stretch it to a 9?
No. I tell you what, I'll go with a 9, because it's too. To me, you've got important consequences and then you've got minor consequences. But it's for the character in this episode is specifically him. So yeah, we'll go with a 9. Absolutely.
Okay then, right then. So, where does that leave, dear Doctor? I hear you asking, Jerry. So, as ever, we'll go in descending order and tell you how the scores play out. So, in that sign, come on, spreadsheet, behave. So, starting off in 21st place is the Voyager Conspiracy, footing the bill at the moment with 59 points. Just a half point behind is the Arsenal Freedom at 20th. Then we have the Enterprise Incident from the original series at 67. And in 18th place is Dear Doctor, with a score of 71.5. So, unfortunately,
I genuinely thought it might have gotten a little bit higher than that, but it was just one of those episodes that, even though it's good, it's enjoyable to watch, but marking it was insanely difficult, because
it's one of those ones that's always going to suffer a little bit for being a bit more cerebral, and it is in those sections where action effects, where it's almost like a TV movie, almost it's almost like a novella. But like I said, like I think, as you said, I think we did take points off the writing for being a bit too like fucking J.J. Abrams about it, if I dare say. And you didn't have to be so obvious about it. Where in certain episodes, especially in like say the likes of Deep Space Nine or the Next Generation, didn't have to be obvious about it. They did trust the intelligence of the viewer to go, "Oh, this is about this." I know audiences change and
Yeah.
so forth like that, but yeah, I mean, you can trust us on this one, lads. The guys who are watching Enterprise, like they know what we're on about here. You can trust us on this one. So yes, it does rest at 18th place here, which means it gets beaten by the duo of the Doomsday Machine for the original series and Tinker Tailor Doctor Spy from Voyager, both on 72. Then we have the clutch of episodes in the Next Generation, The Battle and Conspiracy, both on 73. Then we have a jump up then to Space Heat from the original series at 77. The Trials and Tribulations from Deep Space Nine at 79 points out of 100. And then we get to Q Who scoring at 80. And then we get to our top 10. So Cupid makes it at 81 points. Then we have the clutch of original series episodes, Balance of Terror and The Trouble with Tribbles at 81.5. Followed then by Family from the Next Generation at 82 points. Both sharing fifth place at the moment is Skin of Evil and the Endorian Incident at 83. Lower Decks recently departed from the third spot, currently fourth at 83.5. Emissary, our previous episode, ranked third at the moment. Best of Both Worlds still second with 90.5, and In the Pale Moonlight still leading the class at the moment with 91 out of 100. And like I said, this next batch is challenging to see can anything top that at the moment. But so far, the Doctor certainly did not upset the apple cart in that sense, Jerry. A good episode, but look at the class it's with at the moment.
Exactly. It's going to take something exceptional to get it, to put it. What were the top three? So you've got Best of Both Worlds,
In the Pale Moonlight, Best of Both Worlds, and Emissary. So you have two parters in that. So
you've got three exceptionally good episodes. So it's not about just topping number one. And I genuinely believe it's not going to be topped. I just don't think it will.
Okay.
But for me, it's a thing where it's got to be good to get even into the top three. It's not even the top five. It's the top three. Because the top three are so good. Like for me, there's a couple of episodes, and I think one of those episodes, I'm not going to say which one it is, but you know what I'm talking about. It's a double header. It's a double header, and you genuinely believe this is the one episode. You think this is the one episode that can topple In the Pale Moonlight. As good as I think that episode is, I still don't think it's going to topple In the Pale Moonlight. There is one episode that I have, or there's actually one or two episodes that I have that I think maybe could challenge In the Pale Moonlight, and they're both Deep Space Nine episodes.
Yeah.
But they're both technically two-parters, but it's like one of them is a proper two-parter, whereas the other one is you could just take the second episode and go with that.
I know what you mean.
And it's a thing. Will a Voyager episode do it? Don't think so. Will a Next Gen episode? I don't think there's a Next Gen episode, except for Best of Both Worlds, that could topple In the Pale Moonlight. There's three episodes. The two that I have, the two Deep Space Nine episodes that I have, and your Voyager episode are the only ones, I think, the only ones that are even going to come close.
Okay.
But I will put my hands up and say I will be as fair as I can in the scoring.
Of course.
Obviously, I don't want In the Pale Moonlight to lose. I just simply don't. It's as simple as that. I don't want it to lose. But if it's gonna lose, it want to be a good fucking episode. Because if it's not a good episode, Jonathan, I know where you live.
Indeed you do. Well then, let's whet the appetite of our viewers then, and let's give them a little glimpse of what they can expect. So as we said, we are doing 2 new arcs over the next couple of years. So again, well, a year's year, you're gonna be fucking hell over the next year in 2023. So like I said, we're gonna try and get you in the mood for this one. This is our last one of the year, because all going well, this will be out before Christmas or indeed before the new year starts. So come January, we are going to be getting stuck into our character arc, but also our time arc, which I'm very, very excited about because again, we all know Star Trek when time gets involved, shit kicks off. But again,
Goddamn timey-wimey bastards.
timey wimey bollocks, you know. But much like we're doing for most of this, we don't want to bias one like series over the other. We're trying to get a nice eclectic mix of all Star Treks, even old and new. So that's what we're trying to do here. So indulge me, if you will, by telling you what the next 10 episodes of this is going to be. Because again, this is going to get you to at home to wonder, can one of these episodes upset the apple cart and become the top spot? So our next episode on this series is going way back, way further back than the Enterprise, at least from the show point of view. We're going back to the original series again. I have to say, I'm very happy with the amount of original series we've done on the show, Jerry, because I thought we'd be very biased towards the Next Generation, but we've shown a lot of love to Kirk and Spock in this episode, or in this series, rather.
Yeah.
And this one is going to be no different because this next episode is about Spock. This is Amok Time we're going to be doing, which is literally the episode where they explain everything about the Vulcans. From start to finish. Like, this is the entire Vulcan lore dump all in one episode. But not only that, it's very much about the dynamic between Kirk and Spock. It is that episode with the
Oh, we're finally getting that one. We're finally getting that episode.
Yes. That is the episode we're doing, right? That is next on the series, right? That is our next one. So again, not necessarily a dark horse, but that's gonna be a fun watch. That's gonna be a fun episode to watch. And it gets in the mood then, because again, as these arcs go along, we try and incrementally go up in a little bit of quality, or at least in name value, in that sense. So we've done an episode about Phlox, perhaps the pick of the characters from Enterprise. We're now doing Spock, the original series. But who else can we pick from the Next Generation than Captain Picard himself? We've done a lot of Picard in this season. And again, it pained me because I wanted to do a Barclay episode. And in fact, that was the reason we were going to do a character arc, namely. But we will leave Barclay for a time being. We will get back to Reggie. But we couldn't get a better Picard episode when it comes to character than the episode Tapestry. So Tapestry is the episode we're going to be doing next. So if you like, this is number 21, 22 is Amok Time, and 23 is Tapestry. And kind of adequately signs off our kind of trilogy of Q episodes we've done so far on this show. So it's kind of a nice full circle moment in that sense. So again, we're ticking the boxes here. We're going further up now the generations of, if you pardon the pun, of Star Trek. So what's next up on the line, Jerry, is Deep Space Nine. So you're probably thinking, okay, what are we going to go for? Are we going to go for an O'Brien episode where he suffers and gets the shit kicked out of him? No, that's too easy.
That's every episode.
That's every episode, exactly. We can go for one with Kira. We can go one with Odo, Garak, of course, which we haven't touched just yet, really, in this season just yet. We're kind of saving him for a rainy day, actually, Garak, to be fair. We could do one.
Well, we've only seen him in one episode so far. No, two.
Exactly.
No, one. No, one.
He wasn't in Trials and Tribulations, you're right. So, yeah, only in The Pale Moonlight. And he didn't appear in Emissary. He was too busy caressing Dr. Bashir in the background. So, I mean, who could resist? But yes, so again, we have various characters we could pick with. We could pick Cisco. And indeed, that's exactly what we're doing.
We could, yes.
But we're not picking Ben Cisco. This is a Jake Cisco episode we're doing. In fact, it's a Jake Cisco episode as played by Tony Todd. We're going to be watching the episode The Visitor after Tapestry, which I think that's Dark Horse, to be perfectly honest, because that episode comes out of fucking nowhere in the season. So watch this space on that one.
It's the second episode in season 4. Well, technically third episode.
Yeah.
In season 4. And like that, as you say, it really does come out of nowhere. You're like, oh, shit. Like, you see him, you see Jake growing up, you see Nog becoming captain of the Defiant.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit, oh shit. Captain Nog. Fucking fantastic.
It's quite the trip. But it's a proper good episode, and I'm looking forward to doing it. So then if you notice our kind of our trend for that, then we tend to do a bit of a pivot episode for the halfway mark of this. So this is one that kind of ticks both the character arc but also the time arc. Because then what's next in the progression, Jerry? We have Voyager next up. And again, we have spoiled for choice when it comes to characters. We could have done 7 and 9, we could have done Tom Paris, we could have done Janeway, we could have done Chakotay, but all of Chakotay's episodes are shite. So we're actually focusing on Harry Kim for this episode. With the episode Timeless, where he goes back
it's
in
amazing,
time.
isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
We gave him more than we're giving him more than Janeway ever did.
Which is great, you know. And it's only about what 20 years too late. You know, it's not too bad. Plenty of time. And indeed, time is of the essence in this one because he's gone back in time to save Voyager in basically an act of I suppose like defiance, if you want to call it that, or a act of pure bullishness that his captain emulates at the end of the end of the show.
Yeah,
Funny how that works, isn't it? So that ties up our character arc and launches us straight into the time arc, and this is where the real sharp end comes from, Jerry. So again, we're pivoting a little bit to back to Deep Space Nine for this one. And a bit of levity going into what can be some very intense and exciting episodes. So episode 26 is a bit of a romp, bit of a comedy fun, and shocking enough is our first Ferengi episode of our run. We're going to be watching Little Green Men.
yeah.
Where where Ferengi adequately described the human race as baseball, root beer, and nuclear weapons. And I don't think that really has changed in the time that came out, to be honest.
Not right now, because it's more that than ever before.
No, that's very true, especially with the root beer. But then episode 27 is going to be uncharted territory for us, Jerry, because again we've done a little bit of new Trek in this, namely Lower Decks and in passing, but we are going to break our duck here with some new Trek in Strange New Worlds, because it's time that we watch the episode A Quality of Mercy. Now, if you're not familiar with that episode, if I just say it's the season finale of season 1, where we get Future Pike, that should tell you everything. So we should leave that for those who have not watched it yet.
Strange New Worlds.
Yes.
Season finale.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen it yet.
Ooh.
Right, I haven't seen it yet. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to watch it.
Oh,
I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it for the first time when we're watching it.
Okay.
Would I be right in saying we are introduced to some green-blooded fuckers in this one?
Technically speaking, yes.
Okay, because I have seen little bits, and we are introduced to another captain in this, aren't we?
We are, absolutely, the captain of the Farragut, whoever that was.
That's about all I know, in fairness, about the entire episode. So yeah, okay, I won't watch it. It was actually something I was actually thinking about getting back into watching, because I've only watched the first 3 episodes.
It's fantastic. It really is.
I think I was like, I was like, well, maybe I'll get back into it this week, but I'm going to leave. How many episodes is there? 10?
10, yeah. So
I will leave it. I will not watch it. I won't watch it, and I won't watch it, and we'll go from there. So it'll be like watching some of the original series episodes that I've never seen before.
There you go. Yeah. And then we get to and now again we're getting to the ever sharper cliff face here of 3 episodes who I think do have a serious shout here. So many people call this episode the best of the original series has to offer. And again, consider the ones we've seen here. We've cherry picked the better ones from the original series. Let's be honest. But this one might be the one that takes it. The City on the Edge of Forever. This episode starts off as a short story by Harlan Ellison. This is the one time Harlan Ellison was offered to write for Star Trek, and he went with a script that was as dark as Harlan Ellison's deep, deprived mind, and Gene Roddenberry had to roll back on it. But this is the kind of diluted version of it. This is what comes out of it. But again, it's a really, really good episode even out of that. So that's our edition for episode 28. Potentially, even if it doesn't make the top 3, could very well be the highest scoring original series episode we do, if Amok Time doesn't upset the apple cart there. And then we get to the last 2. So episode 29 brings us back to the next generation and brings us to an episode that doesn't have just one Enterprise, but has two. Because we're going to go for yesterday's Enterprise, and I might as well say it now. I think it's my pick that could go for the top spot. I know what you were thinking. You were thinking I was going to go for the next one, but this is the one.
No, because that we did have that conversation. The next episode that you're about to talk about is the one that you thought was going to play it. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you here.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten that we were doing this episode.
Yes.
And if there was one more Next Generation episode that could potentially harm In the Pale Moonlight, it is actually this, because you're getting, when we look at categories that we have to score, there are guaranteed 10s in that episode already. I don't even need to watch it to know there are guaranteed 10s, because when you look at action, it has it. When you look at score, it has it. When you look at character, when you look at everything from plot to consequences to scenes to actors.
This is where it gets tricky.
I put it this way, right? I'm making this bold prediction now. The top three are going to be shaking in their boots when it comes to this episode. Simply because we from the 10 categories that we have, you can give it a potential of 100 points.
Yes.
The two that we have that are in the top two, it's 90 and 90.5. Am I right by that? Or is
91,
it
90.5? Yeah.
Right. Okay. This episode is a guaranteed at least 90 points.
Yeah. It's 85 and up, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least. This is going to topple 1, 2, or 3. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. It's going to topple 1, 2, or 3. Do I want it to topple 1? No. Do I think that if there's a Next Generation episode that could topple 1, is it this one? Yes. Now, I thought that about Best of Both Worlds, and we got 90.5, 0.5 away.
The closest we could have got.
But if there's a Next Generation episode that can topple it,
well, we'll have to wait and see. That's still down the line. And again, as always, every 10th episode we do is a two-parter, because we want to stretch these guys out. We want to maximize this series as best we can, and we don't want to burn out in two-parters too quickly, because there's a lot. They're few and far between, and you want to make good of them. So the last one we're going to do of this arc, of the season, if you will, of Best of All Worlds, is a two-parter, and it's from Voyager. And again, you can't get better than timey-wimey than with the Year of Hell, which again is also very, very likely to challenge the top 3.
This was the one I thought you were talking about. This was the one I thought
Yes.
he thinks this is going to topple In the Pale Moonlight. For me, again, if there was a Voyager episode that could topple In the Pale Moonlight, it's this. This is, again, when you're looking at points, I think this is a guaranteed 80s.
Oh yeah.
If not higher. Guaranteed 80s, if not higher. Just like yesterday's Enterprise, guaranteed 80s. I think it's at least a 90. Yesterday's Enterprise. There's one more. I know I said 2, but I think I'm gonna just go with 1. There's one more double header. It's a Deep Space Nine double header.
Yeah.
And I think personally for me, this is the one that you look at the 3 that we're looking at here. You've got yesterday's Enterprise. You've got the Year of Hell, and then this episode. I'm just gonna say it. Way of the Warrior. Way of the Warrior. Okay. Out of all 3 of those episodes, you're potentially looking at the new top 3.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
very
what
much
you're
so.
looking. That's what you're looking at right there.
The top of the table will be completely different by the end of episode 30. Like, there's no
by the end of episode 30, and that doesn't even include Way of the Warrior.
No, that's the thing.
It's not
There's
even
so many episodes we haven't done yet.
Yeah, it's not even in it yet. So I think by the end of episode 30, you're going to have new rankings in the top 5. That's 100%. That is guaranteed. In what order? Just have to wait and see.
Indeed, we do.
Just have
Indeed,
to
we
wait and
do.
see.
So,
But when we come to some of these episodes, they are guaranteed 10s in some of these episodes. Guaranteed 10s. So we just have to wait and see.
indeed, we do. Indeed, we do. So that's what makes this very, very exciting for all of us. So yeah, that is the year to look forward to here on the Best of All Worlds 2023. We said 2022 was going to be pretty big, and we got there in the end. We got into Pale Moonlight. We got a lot of big hitters done. But the work is not over yet. There is still so fucking much Star Trek to review on this show. We're small of a choice. We can go the well is as deep as we want it to be. But as always, the cream rises to the top, and even the ones we mentioned there, the 10 we're doing, there's 20 more waiting in the background that could challenge. But will they be the top spot? That is what's going to remain the question for us. But for now, we're going to sign off by thanking you all very much for watching Best of All Worlds over the year. I hope you've enjoyed all of the episodes we put out this year. And I hope, Jerry, you've enjoyed watching along some Trek, because again, you've watched new Trek yourself, namely the original series.
Yeah, to me, the original series is new Trek because I've never seen it, and to be perfectly honest, I've been pleasantly surprised. I didn't think it was going to be quite as good as it has been. Now they have been all great,
No,
but was it The Trouble with Troubles?
Yeah.
That was the name of it. It's not Trials and Tribulations, because that's the other one.
That's
Trouble with Troubles. I genuinely enjoyed that episode. Genuinely, I thought, I was like, that's a nice, fun episode. Then you've got it was the cat and mouse one with the Romulans. Fantastic episode, absolutely fantastic. I was like, I didn't think the original series was as good as it was. I really didn't. But clearly, there was a reason that they decided to make films and new series, because this was so beloved. So, yeah, I'm looking forward. I think. I'm really looking forward to The City on the Edge of Forever, because I've heard so much about it. I've never seen it. I've heard so much about it. I was like, this better be as good as it's been hyped up to be, because I'll be very disappointed.
The glasses as well, that's the thing. It could very well be the case. That's why when we give it an analytical eye, it might fall on its arse. That's the most intriguing part of these highly fancied episodes, that there are going to be flaws, there are going to be issues with each one, and it's purely trying to find empirically the best episode out of each category, hence the Best of All Worlds. Now it all makes sense. But that's the thing, like if it ranks high, then that is one thing, but there'll always be chinks in the armor. That's what makes this series so intriguing. So yes, absolutely, from that sense, it's going to be good. Again, there's plenty more to go around. We've barely touched new Trek. We haven't done a deep dive into DS9 or Voyager yet. There's still plenty more to come in this season. We're just cherry picking here. We're just finding contenders and challengers here in this episode, in this next set of episodes. There'll be more on the way. Like I said, the Way of the Warrior is almost certainly going to come up very, very soon, in whatever arcs we decide to do. Because again, as I said, there's a few seasons that we're going to get stuck into, or a few shows we're going to get stuck into after this to make everything feel nice and representative. And especially in Deep Space Nine, because like we're leaving a lot on the plate for that one. It has to be said. But that's kind of by design. In fairness, we want to kind of keep some of that in reserve, so that people are still intrigued going into what could be episode 30, 40, 50 of this show. So that's the reason we're doing it that way. But yes, until we get to that point, again, I'm sure on behalf of myself and Jerry Soul, we want to thank you very much for your continued support and custom by watching this show, and very much all of the shows we do here on the Nerds Roast channel. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, if you're a first-time viewer, then by all means subscribe to us, give it the likes and shares, all the YouTube stuff that help boost the channel. It really does help out in the end of the day. And by all means, chime down in the comments what episodes you'd love us to review, because like I said, after the end of this marathon run, we are going to need new ideas and suggestions. Do you agree with Jerry that the Way of the Warrior should be top spot, or indeed challenge for top spot? Or do you have an episode that we haven't touched yet on this season? Again, we'd love to hear from you. Any ideas are welcome on this show, except for Discovery. We're probably not going to touch that. No, I'm only messing. Eventually, we'll have to inflict Michael Burnham on Jerry. It has to be done. Just for representation, to be fair. Like, we haven't done all the new Trek yet.
I'm sick that day.
Oh, you are? You're right, actually. Yeah, you are going to be ill in 3 years' time. That's pretty impressive. Fair play. But yes, but again, if you want to see more of us, then I shall defer to my good friend Jerry Soul here, whose Twitch channel is still ongoing. Talk to us about Jerry Soul's VIP. What's going on with you at the moment, Jerry?
Well, I finally came back this last Thursday was my first time back in nearly a month. Because unfortunately I was going strong. We had reached the lovely level of 50, which is for I can't remember what it is, but once you get to level 50 followers, you basically you go up a level. That's the way into it. And I was going from strength to strength. I was getting a good few people on. I was getting raided by some heavy hitters in terms of the Star Wars Twitch community. They were raiding me and they were liking my channel. I was having conversations with them, which was great. And then COVID hit. Unfortunately, I got COVID. I got COVID. I think it was on the Wednesday. So my stream on the Thursday was not happening. The following week, I still had COVID up until the Thursday. That wasn't happening. And then for nearly 2 weeks after that, then I seemed to have some sort of chest infection. And I'm like, people are not going to want to watch a Twitch channel where I'm going, hi, everybody. We're going to have a great... and yeah, that's just not going to happen. So I finally came back last week after about nearly a month away. We streamed some Star Wars: The Old Republic, which was fantastic. Some great interactions with people. It was good to be back. We got a good few followers viewing at the time, so it's just a matter. It's just a matter of going from strength to strength from there. I will in the new year, fingers crossed. The new podcast that we did talk about, when we start recording and releasing, it'll be released on. Like this one, like on YouTube. It'll also be released on Spotify, but I will be releasing it on my Twitch channel as well. So it's a matter that you'll be able to watch it on that as well. So there's going to be a few different ways that you can watch or listen to the new podcast. I need to basically get the finger out. But now that I have a new job, it allows me to do Monday to Friday 9 to 5. And now that I have a second new job, which will allow me to do a couple of evenings a week, for that, I'm kind of setting myself a schedule. So Mondays are going to be for recordings, like we do now. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my Twitch streams, and then Wednesdays, Fridays, and possibly Saturdays will be my second job that I'm going to be doing as well. So going to be kept quite busy. But I much prefer busy than sitting around doing nothing, because I feel like I've done nothing when I'm like that. So yeah, good few exciting months ahead, and it's just a matter of keeping eyes on the prize and actually doing the work. So fingers crossed.
Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. By all means, follow Jerry Soul's VIP for that, and throw him a few bob if you want to subscribe as well. It will not go astray. Jerry Soul will love a pint out of that, I'm sure, because
a pint of 0-0.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, come on, you're driving after all. So with that said, and so again, guys, by all means, do exactly what the man says, and follow his Twitch, and check out all of his streams every Tuesday and Thursday. And then from when It's Your Round kicks off, by all means, stay tuned for that, because I've seen the guest list. There's some pretty good names there. So I'm looking forward to hearing from them as well. So until then, folks, thank you very much again for your time. Happy Christmas, happy holidays, all that jazz, and a very Merry New Year to all of you out there in the Star Trek verse. But until then, folks, as ever, no matter what time of the year it is,